So we have talk of this proposed 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. What are the prospects of its success, and what are the challenges?
تحياتي حضرتك وللسادة المشاهدين.
To you and to the viewers, of course, I have looked at the documents that was published today on U.S. Bloomberg, proposed by Steve Witkoff, which includes, as you've said, a 60-day ceasefire, which is the first point of objection for the Hamas. It's a temporary deal for 60 days, and the Palestinian people want a permanent ceasefire. The Steve Witkoff proposal also includes the redeployment of the Israeli military in Gaza, and does not mention at all any withdrawal from Gaza, not even a conditional withdrawal. And the Israeli side does not even set any conditions to withdraw the troops. It's all about the detainees held by Hamas, and only a first phase time frame to release these detainees, some alive and some are dead bodies. But and consequently, the entire proposal is for a truce for 60 days alone, which is the US-Israeli target. That is not at all about the Palestinian question, but it's about the Iranian issue. They want a cool down or a truce in Gaza in 60 days so that they can work on the Iranian front. And even if the Russian-Ukraine-US negotiations enter phase, it will be in only temporary ceasefire, and the Palestinian will get nothing out of except for ceasing the hostilities for 60 days. But there are no guarantees that the aggression will not be resumed, and there is no time frame for an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Nothing except that the Israeli army will take a break for 60 days, and the Netanyahu government will take a break for 60 days, and the Steve Witkoff efforts will be credited and will take a break for 60 days. And we know that Steve Witkoff is not only the US envoy to the Middle East, but he is the US envoy to manage also the Iranian nuclear issue and the talks between Russia and Ukraine. So the proposal in general does not meet the aspiration of the Palestinians to end this war. It only serves the visions of Israel and and the United States for 60 days, where they can conclude the loose ends elsewhere.
Okay, well, let's come on to some other issues. We haven't got a whole lot of time. We've been hearing on our bulletin tonight strong words from European leaders like Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer. These international responses, like those of humanitarian agencies, what kind of impact might they have on the conflict and the prospect of aid delivery in Gaza?
The French stance is completely separated from the British stance, and I'm not relying on Europe to change out of sudden and help the Palestinian people. They were the ones to create the Palestinian crisis at the first place, and all the European governments with political and diplomatic voices that is high against Israel, such as Spain. These states did not impose any embargoes on the weapons or the trade movement with Israel. So we are watching a game for politicians, the politicians condemning the Israeli violations, but the military officials and the economists are still supporting Israel. So as long as Britain or France or Spain, unless they issue real measures, these statements are not to be dependent on.
And in your assessment, Ihab Omar, how are medical facilities in Gaza coping with the increasing number of casualties, especially with the shortages of supplies and the power outages as well.
Unfortunately, this crisis is a stigma on the humanity, and in specific the West, because they were talking about the Middle East or the Far East, talking to the entire world about human rights and humanitarian support, even if some human is considered a terrorist, they would talk about their rights. What about the Palestinian people's rights today? And they are innocent due to the leaders of Europe and the US. They are innocent children and women with no direct relations with the Hamas movement. And so I hope that during the upcoming period we would see an accelerated humanitarian action in Gaza, and it won't happen unless the West starts to, because if Israel is really truly pressured by Europe or the United States, they will not be able to go against these demands, away from any propaganda that Israel can go against the entire world, including the United States and Europe.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. That was the journalist and researcher Ihab Omar. Thank you very much.